I pitched the idea of a fractional hire to Ryan, our CEO. And I think it was literally 3 days after he started with us fractionally, Ryan was calling me and asking if we could get a full-time offer out. I think what working with Go Fractional has really done is allowed us to have a high level of continuity at the executive level, even if there is, attrition or certain situations where there's a gap. And so the roadmap has continued to be delivered. The initiatives that we have set out. I'm a member of our executive team working closely with our CEO to make sure our people strategy fuels the business, whether that's growing and hiring leaders, incentivizing our high-performing teams, and helping the organization stay adaptable. One of our biggest challenges has been finding leaders who can navigate the complexity of a business that blends both software technology and a physical product with a usage-based revenue model. And so additionally to that, at our stage, we really need leaders who are equally strategic and also very operational and not afraid to roll up their sleeves in a highly EBITDA-focused environment. We're VC-backed and we are profitable. And so we have a lot of focus on growing EBITDA and really kind of determining our own path forward. Yeah, we've really done it all. We've done the retained executive search firms. We've leveraged our own referral networks. We've leaned on our investors for their portfolio networks. And so it really hasn't been a one-size-fit-all in terms of finding great talent for our team. Now we've added in Go Fractional as well as one of those resources. I found John a while back through some connections with my LP network for part of the venture fund that I'm part of. And it happened a while back, and I remember just looking at his profile and what he was building at Go Fractional and being really intrigued by that model. I could see a lot of great use cases for these types of resources, both for Lob and the early stage companies that are in the portfolio. And so I just kind of kept tabs on him. And then when the opportunity to partner came up, it felt very serendipitous. We had a VP resign a while back at a time when there was just a lot of change going on in the organization. And so at that point, I'd done research into John and Go Fractional and just hadn't had a need come up yet. And so when I started on the backfill for this VP, I pitched the idea of a fractional hire to Ryan, our CEO. And he was open to it, perhaps a bit skeptical, but really gave me the green light to give it a try and show him some profiles. And then when we ended up meeting our person, it was just sort of like a light bulb went off. And I think it was literally 3 days after he started with us fractionally, Ryan was calling me and asking if we could get a full-time offer out. And I'd kind of remind him, we do have a contract. But the team was super flexible, and I think it was 30 days later that we ended up bringing that individual on full-time. Since that first situation, there have been other times for various reasons that a fractional approach at the executive level has made sense for us. I think firstly, it's just a really unique time in the market to find fractional talent. There's just been a lot of movement, whether there's the macro conditions that have impacted the tech industry. There's been a lot of consolidation happening. There have been some great exits. And so Go Fractional has really given us access to available talent in a way that just maybe wasn't even the case 4 or 5 years ago. And for Lobs specifically, now that we've had success with a couple hires, we've seen tremendous value in there being sort of a low risk time period where we can get to know someone and they can get to know us, and we see how they work, we see how they lead teams, and they also get to know us too, because we really just throw them in the deep end. Even though you're starting fractionally, it might not actually feel that way. You're just instantly part of the team. And so they get a really, good sense of reality quickly. And, it's a really low risk situation, if necessary, for someone to be able to say, this was great. It was great getting to know you all, not a fit for us, without feeling like anyone's wasted a tremendous amount of time or resources. And so I think it just works in that two-way street kind of way of getting to know one another. And then there's even more excitement and belief behind it being the right fit when you do, make that full-time offer. Ryan Ferrier, our CEO, also puts a lot of trust in his executive team, and he's given me a lot of agency to try new approaches on how we solve problems at Lob. And he's always said to the leadership team that he expects us to have strong convictions loosely held. And so he doesn't always expect us to get it right 100% of the time. He expects us to get it right most of the time, but there's some safety in not being perfect. And so bringing on Go Fractional, I think, really embodied that philosophy that he asked us to take. And so he's been super supportive as we've really brought on Go Fractional as a key partner to me in hiring the best possible executive team for him. I mean, the team, everyone at Go Fractional is fantastic to work with. And I think when you're hiring an executive, you spend a lot of time on that initiative and on that project. And so I think that's really made it easy. It really helps when you have a strong partnership with the talent partners that you're working with. And so I think that has also just kind of kept us coming back time and time again. It's just getting to work with John and Andrew and the whole team at Go Fractional. I can't think of projects or initiatives that didn't get done because we, had a big gap on the leadership team. I think what working with Go Fractional has really done is allowed us to have a high level of continuity at the executive level, even if there is, attrition or certain situations where there's a gap. And so the roadmap has continued to be delivered. The initiatives that we have set out, usually we're planning in Q3 of the year before. And even when someone from Go Fractional has come on in Q1 of the next year, things are still getting done. And so I think more than anything, we've just seen projects and initiatives get done in a way that I don't think would have been possible without the Go Fractional support. I really think that there's a few different sort of use cases here. One that is easy to think of, as I mentioned, I'm a LP with a venture fund, and most of our portfolio companies are seed to Series A stage, and maybe don't need a full-blown C-suite or executive team right off the bat, but does need the thought leadership and the experience and the guidance for some of the early building. And so I think, these fractional hires could be really impactful for early stage companies who are not quite ready to build out a full-blown, executive team. And then I think there's Lob's case where we're sort of that like in the teenage phase where we're scaling up and, might be going through organizational changes. Also at this stage, some companies might be changing their go-to-market approach. They might be needing to find, a different target audience or ICP, different product market fit if they're expanding their product lines. And so I think really anytime that there's sort of a season of change or a big shift in the stage that you're in, it really helps to have a really adaptable, flexible executive recruiting option so that you can either find folks who really thrive in that kind of chaos and change environment, or maybe you don't need a person for the long term for something that you do need their support on short term. And so again, it's just kind of a low risk, high reward scenario. I think it's more about your team. And so I think it's less about function and more about the organizational situation. And so that's something that we definitely consider before, a fractional hire is there a really strong bench that is going to be able to be adaptable and be flexible in this kind of situation. I think also depending on the rest of the team in terms of, you don't want there to be a constantly revolving door. And so I think it's more situational than role-based. And I think I can speak to that from a pretty educated standpoint, considering we've worked with Go Fractional on everything from technical to finance to go-to-market. And so we've at least seen a lot of success across all roles, but I wouldn't say that it would maybe work in every organization or for every team. We partnered with Go Fractional first for our engineering executive, and that was the situation I was mentioning earlier where that individual came on, and I think it was after 3 days of being our fractional VP of engineering, we were looking to make a full-time hire. And so we've been able to leverage Go Fractional first on our engineering team, and then after that, we actually brought on a fractional CFO to guide us through a time of transformation and change for the business. And that was also another really fast find. And I think that was maybe 45 days later, had them coming on full time. And so it's been really helpful in terms of the pillars of both of those key functions. And then we've been able to partner with Go Fractional as well for fractional support for some product leadership. which has been really helpful. Again, as I mentioned before, off is a little bit more complex in that we have both software as a service and logistics as a service that we offer. And so getting in different viewpoints on the product side has been really helpful in moving us forward on our roadmap. And then we're also engaged right now on searches for marketing and go-to-market roles as well, for individuals that, again, are kind of uniquely positioned right now in the market to come in and really guide us through this next stage of growth at 250 to 500 million mark. The process has been really seamless. It's been as simple as getting on a call and doing a deep dive into the profile and sort of the role scope. And it's been so easy because John and Andrew, frankly, they just get it. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of time or lift to really get going before they're sending over profiles. It's felt very easy in that we just have a Slack conversation going and profiles are sent over, scheduling links are sent, and it just feels very adaptable, very entrepreneurial. Again, I think there's a time and a place perhaps for retained executive searches. They tend to feel pretty robust and a huge amount of overhead and commitment of time. And so I've just really appreciated sort of the entrepreneurial startup feel of working with Go Fractional. We're all busy. And so to be able to work with the team in that kind of dynamic way has been really helpful. And really it's been like day or night. I think Andrew was slacking me the other night. It must have been like 9 p.m. his time. And so just the level of commitment and investment in us is really appreciated. And again, just good humans. I think ultimately at the end of the day, if you're going to be working as much as we work, you want to enjoy who you're engaging with and working with. And so that's just been a phenomenal part of working with Go Fractional as well.